This is BoomerLife on CL 650.
You're listening to BoomerLife on CL 650. I'm George Gordon, and we're talking today about the dramatic impact of hearing loss and the solutions that you can find with NexGen Hearing. Once again in studio with us, audiologist Dr. Ted Venema. Ted, we've talked about the use of microphones in hearing aids. Let's. What do they do?
Microphones pick up the sound. Right. That's what gathers the sound, and it sends it into the hearing aid to be processed, and then the sound is delivered by a tiny speaker into your ear. And that speaker is often called a receiver. Now, who cares? But it's a tiny, again, about the size of a pinhead. So all these things are quite tiny. And microphones today, okay, you've got all kinds of mics, right? I mean, we're wearing a couple of boom mics ourselves while we're talking on the radio. But see, in hearing aids, microphones can be what they call omnidirectional, which means they pick up sounds in all directions, like 360 degrees, like a circle. And that's the normal kind of mic. That's a microphone that's just, hi, my name is Mike. Okay. Got it. And a good old omnidirectional microphone picks up sounds evenly from the front, from the back of my head to the sides, evenly. Then a directional mic, and again, hearing aids didn't invent this. It was invented by the military in World War II, okay? But directional microphones don't help you find the direction of sound, okay? That's just not true. Directional microphones pick up sounds in the direction you're facing. So the hearing aid will act a little bit more like a tunnel. It will pick up, assuming that the person of interest is in front of me, the hearing aid will be sensitive to sounds coming from the front, that microphone will be, and it will be less sensitive to sounds coming from the sides and from the rear. And in that way, you pick up less background noise and you pick up more of the speech that you're trying to hear. So not only are you using a program like we described in a previous segment, where we decreased the bass in background noise and we increased the treble in background noise. That's one approach. And you can add now to that a second approach so that now you're using a directional microphone in noise, whereas you're not using the directional microphone in quiet. So program one will be for listening in quiet. You'll get your bass amplitude, your treble, you'll get the sounds you need, and you'll pick them all up from around you with an omnidirectional mic. Program 2 will be less bass, more treble, so you can hear the sounds of speech better, the consonants, plus it'll be directional. So now you've got two things being used. Not only are you picking up more speech and less noise, but you're also picking up the sounds from in front of you, assuming that that's the person you want to hear, and less sounds from the sides and rear. I can picture right now one scenario where this would be important. Let's say a wedding, right? Yeah. I don't care where you are in that wedding train, right? You have to hear the music, you have to hear your cues, but when the minister, the priest, whoever is talking, the justice of the peace is talking in front of you, you have to be able to hear them. Is that the kind of scenario or situation that prompted this advance in science? Well, that's part of it, but let's talk about some of the limitations of directional microphones. They won't be more effective than, say, 10 feet away. Okay? They're great for you and I sitting at a table in a restaurant. Then the microphones will be most sensitive to sounds coming from you sitting across from me at the table. But the directional microphone won't be all that great at picking up the sound of a speaker who's 40 or 50 feet away compared to the people sitting next to me crackling their papers. Right. Okay? Then you'd need a different device, and by gum, we've got that too. All the hearing aids use that too. And it's called either an FM system or else it's a different type of device where you would be wearing, the speaker would be wearing on his or her lapel a tiny little pickup mic. And that mic would deliver the sounds again wirelessly to my hearing aids. It's okay. It's mind-boggling. I suppose, though, if you've watched enough
TV shows, or you can plant a bug in a room up in a corner, and they can pick up every bit of sound.
Yeah. Yep.
So the technology is either borrowed from that or inspired by that.
It's science fiction almost. I mean, a teacher in the front of a classroom can be wearing a tiny little mic, and it's communicating with the hearing impaired student at the back of the room. Nobody knows this. He is getting the sound delivered wirelessly, the radio waves, from that microphone to his hearing aids, which are then amplifying it and streaming it, in other words, putting it in his ears. And nobody's the wiser. I mean, nobody knows. It's just, so this is what's done in those more difficult listening situations when you're at a further distance.
You're listening to Boomer Life on CIL 650. I'm George Gordon today, talking about the impact and the solutions for hearing loss from NexGen Hearing, and we're talking with audiologist Dr. Ted Venema. I'm trying to think of the implications, and there's so many as we sit and talk about this improvement of not only the volume, but the quality of sound for the different types of hearing impairment. What does this do for the student, the relationship, the older person in the family? Yeah,
the biggest complaint of hearing aids, ask any hearing aid wearer, is usually background noise. That's the background noise is the big challenge. The big beige bananas that people used to wear behind their ears picked up a ton of background noise. And the person was just told you really just can't do anything about it. It's just, the devil's in the cure. That's just the way it is. But today, we can handle the background noise so much better because we've got digital technology working with us. So we can, in our next segment, we should talk about digital noise reduction, because that's a third way. Aside from programs and aside from directional mics, that's numero trois. That's the third one. And the directional mics are often described in terms of what they call polar plots. This has nothing to do with the North or South Pole. Okay, this is just omnidirectional mics would be drawn like a circle. They pick up sounds equally in all direction. The directional mic might be called cardioid because its pickup pattern will look like an upside-down heart. It's going to pick sound up from in front of you, but it's not going to pick up sounds very well behind me. Then again, you might be a cab driver and you're hearing impaired, and you want to pick up the sound behind you. Well, you can make the microphone do that too. So you can make the directional microphones favor sounds from the front. You can make them favor sounds from the side. You can make them favor sounds from the rear. And that's one part of it. The second part is the hearing aid can automatically go into directional mode without you telling it to.
All in the preset settings. So you feed this information that you get from the hearing test.
Into the computer.
Into the computer.
You program the hearing aid, and then you've entered the further logic, or the next step is automatic choice. And so the person, when he or she is in quiet, the hearing aid automatically goes to program 1, listening in quiet, automatically goes for surround sound, omnidirectionality. And when he or she walks into a noisy room, or if people come into the room and things become noisy, the hearing aid automatically goes into listening in noise program, which automatically now includes the microphones to turn into directionality mics. So now the mics will behave in a directional fashion.
And it wasn't so long ago that this, although you could have these different functions, you had to sort of change it with a reset button.
With a remote control or whatever. Now the hearing aids, you can still do that. You can elect to do that. You can elect to override what the hearing aid is. But if you leave it on automatic, that's just great as a set and forget solution. I mean, now you don't have to sit there, especially someone who's elderly and who's not technologically inclined and doesn't want to fuss with all that stuff. That someone wants to just have more of a hearing aid that just acts like his or her glasses. You put them on and they work. You put the hearing aids in and they work. That's what you want.
Well, and this is what people, and I'm guesstimating that for older people especially, who are not as adaptable to change, if you have a device that will let them hear better in all environments,
Right.
and they don't have to fiddle with it,
Exactly.
you've got a winner, and you've got somebody who can hear better and have a better quality of life.
Exactly. Well, that's the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quality of life.
You are listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. We're going to talk a little bit more about the noise reduction behind microphones coming up in our next segment. And we hope that you can be with us. We want to remind you that if you've just joined us and you feel that you've missed a little bit of the conversation of what we've had with Dr. Ted, you can get more of this information at nextgenhearing.com or on the podcast that will be available for this programming at CL650.com.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.